Your pension or your power supply? In France, you can only pick one. Hello and welcome to today's Daily Blitz. In today's video, we'll be going over a news item which encompasses so many different topics that we don't really know where to start. It's very interesting. It contains all of these different themes, all these different trends that have been going on in the market and in politics, which have all come together in a very strange confluence in France. So on Wednesday, there was a power cut in France where 150,000 homes, including the Banque de France, the French central bank itself, was left without power. And this wasn't an accident. This was actually a deliberate action by trade unionists. Is that right?
That's right. So there's a history in France of trade unionists, and in this case pensioners, actually disrupting electricity supplies in order to make their disfavour known. And unfortunately, it's made a comeback, even though for a long time they abandoned this strategy because obviously it annoys everyone quite a lot and it can actually be dangerous. But it's made a comeback in recent years.
Right, so it seems like quite a drastic action. Seems like the kind of thing that you would only really expect in third world countries. However, what is it exactly that's got them so riled up that they would start cutting off power?
Yeah, it's all about pension reform. So French President Macron wants to create a single system for all the public servants. He's calling it a points-based system, which of course sounds familiar to British listeners. But the idea of this pension reform is, as always, less pensions for public sector workers who basically have extraordinary benefits, such as the French train drivers actually retiring at age 50.
Retiring at 50 seems pretty good, but it's not just the train drivers either, is it? As I understand, EDF, the electricity provider, the utility provider, is among the workers from EDF, are among the workers who are striking, which is quite interesting because in recent years, it was a few years back, I think 4 years ago, EDF was one of the first companies ever to issue a century bond. So that's a debt which expires in 100 years. So if you buy the bond, you will only get your money back in 100 years' time, which is quite an incredible thing to do. So it's interesting that the workers from this company are attacking their own customers only 4 years in to these loans that have been issued.
So that's a good example of how all of this comes back to bite investors. But what made this story really really attract a lot of attention for me was the fact that the Banque of France lost its power supply. Now, we're all relying on central banks to sort of inflate financial markets at the moment, keep the banks going, that sort of thing. So this is a great example of how politics ends up causing a problem for central banks, and that causes a problem for financial markets.
Yeah, as the expression goes, the financial crisis that we all look for in the markets may be appearing through the ballot box, or in this case, in the form of power cuts, even to the central bank itself. So it's becoming something of a circle where the actions of central banks create pension shortfalls, which then leads to political protests, and then to pension reforms, which then leads to more protests, and it further disrupts the economy, which leads to more central bank action. Is that right?
Yeah, and then the central bank is targeted as a political bad guy in this whole process, and that puts financial markets at risk for investors.
So it's interesting what is going on in France, because while the French pension system may be very generous, like with the age 50 retirement age, it is certainly not the only pension system in the world which is facing stress. And there will be no shortage of pensioners who are irritated at pension cuts and various funding issues for pensions in the years to come. So it's interesting that the French have gone straight to the central bank and have cut off their power supply. Perhaps this will be one of the rare French traditions that then takes off for the rest of the world.
And that concludes today's Daily Blitz. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to tune in tomorrow.